My name's Deborah Carroll, and I'm a stitcher. You may know me from Instagram as Deborah Carroll Stitcher. I have been stitching since I was in my teenage years. I didn't learn from anyone in my family. No one there really enjoyed doing cross stitch or sewing or anything like that. So my grandmother was a quilter and a crocheter and things like that, but I really just learned on my own. When I got into having my children in the early 80s, I had a couple of local needlework shops, but I had one that was right on the outskirts of the community that I lived in, and it was so handy. I just grabbed the kids up, go down to the shop, look around, pick out my favorite chart, get it kitted up. Uh, Always on linen. I didn't know linen was hard, so no one told me it was hard, so I just stitched on linen. Didn't have any problem with it. And back then, you just got one pattern, you stitched on it till you were done, and then you went back and got the next one. It's not like nowadays where I have, 20, 30 whips and so many charts. I could work on them the rest of my life and never be done with them. So that's my history with cross stitching since the pandemic, since March 2020. I've really been cross stitching pretty much every day since then. It's just something that's been able to, when I couldn't go out to work, I would sit at home and just soothe my thoughts, and I could cross stitch and be happy with that. Now, what I want to accomplish by having a floss tube, I found floss tubes, and that's what got me really hooked into cross stitching every day. I watch all the floss tubes. I love everybody out there that has a floss tube. They're really, I don't have time to watch all of them. So I understand, about that people can't watch all of them, but you find the ones that you love the most to watch. Of course, Brenda and Laura, Brenda and the sampler starter, or the serial starter. I love them. They're just so great. I always love when you get two people that love each other and that love doing their stitching. I'm envious. I want to have that. You've got what is the one? Linen and I forget, but the two ladies in Texas that I love to watch them because I want to live in their neighborhood and I want to go over and stitch with them. But there are others. I love Celeste Creates. I love Pumpkin Hollow Quilting. I just love all the people that do the cross stitch. So I've been watching and following along with people like Sambry Stitches and Finally a Farm Girl, and I love how they've gotten into charting and given us some new perspectives on cross stitch. So that's really what's kept me going and kept me motivated. My husband wanted me to start a floss tube more than a year ago, and I said, I'm not one to get out there and get in front of a camera and do something. I'm a bit of an introvert, but I found that I had a couple of motivations to do it that finally led me to start. One was I have so many finishes because I love the stitching process so much. I love just sitting there stitching. I'll sit there and stitch, and when it's done, I hold it up, show it to my husband, and then lay it down and go on to the next one. I just love that process of stitching. But I've got over 30 pieces and counting that I have not FFO'd. And so I thought this might be a good motivation to fully finish those pieces so that I could show them on here. So hopefully you will motivate me and I can motivate myself to fully finish those and get them framed or whatever the final finish will be. The other motivation is that I want to find my community in cross stitch. I have gotten to know quite a bit of people online, especially from my Instagram, from going to StitchCon. I went in 2021, and from just a couple other things that I've done. I've gotten to know a few people, but I really want to expand my community there. I really don't have a community here in cross stitch. Maybe that's my fault for not reaching out more, but I kind of want to use this forum to do that and I've talked to my husband about it, and we're thinking about traveling. Maybe we'll find some local needlework shops that are local to you that you would like me to come visit, or your stitching meetups that maybe you think would be great for me to come visit. Maybe I can film there. So if you have suggestions, especially if they're in the southeast. Now I don't mind going west, north, wherever, but especially if they're in the southeast to begin with, it'd be great to go and magnify some of those and for me to see those and just find that community out there. One thing, if you'll do me a favor, if this is my first Flosstube, so I kind of want to get it out there and be seen. If you'll do me a favor and just like my Flosstube if you find you like it. Also to put a note down there. Tell me something about yourself, about where your needlework shops are, what your meetups are. If there's any you have any suggestions of for me to go, that would be great. And then also subscribe. I do not have a schedule yet of when I'm going to film these Flosstubes. So I'm going to do a couple too in pretty rapid succession, but I don't know about the next ones, what my schedule is going to be. I'm thinking it'll be every 2 weeks, but I don't know what day, so it'll probably be the third or fourth before I get into a good routine. So if you can just subscribe and hit the bell button to be alerted when I come on, then that will help. It'll help me out and it'll help you out, and I'd appreciate it. And just a note for us, for some of you I have met over the last few years. Some of you have met me with brown hair. Some of you have met me with gray hair. The last year I let my gray hair grow out. So I went to the March market here in Nashville. I went over there and I had totally gray hair, but my youngest son didn't get used to it and still saw me as brunette. So I went back to my original brunette color that I was born with. So don't be alarmed if you see different hair colors. You never know what I might come up with, but I think I'm here to stay for the brunette for a while. So I keep a list of what I'm doing. This is a 2-year calendar I've got, and I keep a list of things. As you can see, I'm not a big sticker person. I usually put about 1 sticker a month, but I keep what I'm doing in there. My starts and finishes, what I've worked on each day. Some days I don't put, I forget, but most of the days I put. Most of the time I put in my notes what I plan to work on. So it's worked for me now. It may not continue to be the best thing, but right now it's worked. As far as getting out and knowing my community, my stitch-alongs that I've done in the past have really helped me get to know people. And so I've enjoyed stitch-alongs. I enjoy leading them. I enjoy other people doing them. I know some people don't like to do them. They want to do whatever they want to do and at their pace, and that's great. It's just helped me get to know other people, and I like motivating them to keep going, and your work is great, and keep moving along. I know I could show you a stitch along that was done a year or so ago. It was on the 2020 pandemic sampler, and how I like to do big pieces, and so how I get through them is that I divide them up for myself, but I show other people. I divide them up into sections. Now, I may not follow it, but it's there for me to say, this is how I can get through and finish this piece if I do this, if I follow this. And if I don't follow it, it's because I get ahead, but I try not to get behind. So for instance, this was Sarcy Girls 2020 pandemic sampler, and it's a huge piece. You can see, you've probably seen it out there. It's got 2 big houses and everything, but something about it, I really loved it. I loved the border. I just loved it. But I looked at it and I said, oh my gosh, be 2 huge houses and everything else. I'll never finish it. And I said, wait, I'm going to do this the same as I would have done for my team at work. I would have divided it up into sections and said, this is how you get it done, one bite at a time. And so this one I divided it up into 8 sections, and I told people, if you want to join along, great. You can follow it or not follow it. And just because it's got a number on a section doesn't mean that you have to do this from 1, I gotta get used to this camera, that you have to do it from 1 to 8. You could start, on number 3 or start on number 6. It doesn't matter. But it just pulls it out in a section that's manageable to do 1 section a month. And so the result, I did mine using Mrs. Sada's silks. She did a floss pack for this. It's just beautiful. Mrs. Sada's silks are my favorite silks to use. And I did this on XJU Design Rustic Drab. So let's see if I can pull this up here where you can see it. I'll pull it in closer and try to give you it's just a beautiful piece. And those silk colors, the turquoise and the peachy pinks, it's just wonderful. We have people that finished before I finished. We had people that finished along with me. We had people that finished, months later, a year after. I know Bindi Stitchy is still working on it. Michelle, she's got it on her Whitgo, so it didn't matter, but it was really nice to know the people working on it, and I got to know them better, and you can just cheer each other along as you go. Now, one thing I want to show you is that coming up for this year, I've committed to leading a stitch along, a SAL, for a piece that Becca Sambry stitches. That Sambry Stitches charted. It's a reproduction sampler. It's Margarita Seepkins, 1815. Again, Sambry Stitches. And what you can see from this is this ship right here. Wait, right there. Now that ship caught my eye, and I've been looking for a ship. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, but I knew I was looking for something for a certain reason. And so this one caught my eye. As you see, I've got a ship back up here that is a piece that represents my father to me. My father died in 1986, so he's been gone a long time, but he was a life insurance salesman, and he had this ship on his wall behind his desk because the company he worked for, Pilot Life Insurance Company, the pilot was the pilot of the ship. So they had other things with the steering, whatever you call the wheel of the ship. But this piece was on the wall behind him, and whenever I go into the office, I would see it on that wall. And so after he died, that's, he left everything to my mother, of course. But I pulled this off the wall, and I've had it in every office I've been in, whether it's been at home or in someone else's, if I've worked for a company, I've had it on the wall in my office. And so I wanted something that had a ship in it that I could kind of put, this is for my dad. So that's what I'm going to do with this, is do this in honor of my dad. I know that has no meaning to other people, but, it's a beautiful piece. And what I've done for myself is I have tried to, I gotta get better at this. Don't make fun of me, it's my first Flosstube. I've divided it up into 6 pieces for myself to do, so I'm going to do it over 6 months because I like to go back and forth with a lot of pieces. But I'm going to go over 6 months. I've got this on my Instagram. If you'd like to follow along, Acorns and Threads have the charts. A lot of your needlework shops around the United States, they've got these charts, so you can easily order them there. I think Sambry Stitches, her Etsy store probably has them ready to be sold now also. But Acorns and Threads have lots of fabrics. They have the flosses. Let's see, the colorful flosses I think are DMCs. Let me look. Well, I think they're GMCs, but Janine at Acorns and Threads have put together different floss packs, and I got the silk floss pack. She sent me, I was going to try to come up with several different options for the fabric. I know the model was done on Be Stitch Me Vintage. Janine sent me Fiber on a Whim Milk and Honey, and there's that in the NPI silk pack. So hopefully I may have another couple of options, but that's what I'm going to leave. This sale starts April 22nd, so I've got 3 weeks to go before it starts, and I'll probably have my second Flosstube out and then do a special Flosstube just for the start of this sale. Maybe do a live, maybe do a Zoom. I have not been good with video equipment. I probably started this 20 times and on 3 different pieces of equipment. So whatever, but I'd like to do something on Saturday, April 22nd to start this off. So, I'd love if you join us doing it. It'd be wonderful. So what I thought I would do today on my first Flosstube is I would just show you some of the things that I've stitched over the last 2.5, 3 years since the pandemic started. They're all, most all of them I have not finished, and that's sad. I'm going to show you a few pillows. I don't normally do small pieces. I like to do large pieces, but just here lately I've done several pieces that are small for pillows, and so I've been able to FFO them, which is no problem. I've got a quilt room in my house, so I'll go in there, use the sewing machine and sew them up. But most of them are not finished. So let me show you a few here that are, let's see if I can find my notes for them. This one is, there we go, I'm figuring it out. It's Garden Gate Sampler. This piece is from Prairie Schooler, and really it is a piece that should go all the way down. There's a longer piece. Lori Holt and Happy Little Stitch Shop was leading a sale on it. I got this far and said, that's all I want to do on it. So I made it into a pillow, and I just modified on either side here. I did these a little differently, and I put the green in behind the white there. But I did this on 18 count Grace Notes fabric. Rhys, R-H-Y-S is the color, and I used call for floss. So I started and finished this, and this is I just went on Amazon and got some mini pom-pom trim. They had a pack of a lot of different colors, and I just got it and used it, and it worked out well. And just used some of the fabric I had. This is probably 10-year-old fabric. I don't know what it is, but I'm real happy with that. Stuffed with polyfill. We got Strawberry Fair. And this was a sale I followed along with East Coast Stitcher, Helen D on Flosstube. She did this with Cobweb Corner, and I thought it was beautiful. Made it into a pillow. I used 30 count Country Mocha and the call for flosses, and just an old fabric I had on the back. I haven't put anything around the edges yet. I have some Lady Dot Creates trim. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I sewed on the other pom-pom trim, but I'm not good at gluing, but I'm going to have to get better at gluing. I'm just going to have to force myself to do some things that I can glue. Let's see what this other one is. Gosh. I think I have the notes on this one. But This is Remember Me. Oh, I've got it here. This one is Remember Me. I used again the trim, the mini pom-pom I got on Amazon. I just used some old, I've got some wool that I'm going to do into something to cover that on the back. But this was done actually in honor of my daughter, who passed away in 2018 from Rett syndrome. So this is by Scattered Seed Samplers. I'm not sure what, it's some unknown fabric that I did it on. So those are some finishes that were more easily done. Now here are a lot of my pieces that I haven't FFO'd. And they're in varying order of when I did them and what kinds of pieces there are. I'm all over the place on what I like. If I see it and like it, I just do it. This is Garden of Dreams by Barbara Anna Designs. And I did it on 32 count Country French Cafe. And I used sulky threads. I just picked out my own conversion. Again, I love that. That'll look great. I've got something I want to put it on already. This is Flora and Fauna sampler. I get this from the Historical Sampler Company. It's on 28 count Zweigart Lugana Ivory. And I just use the DMCs.